Great to chat to Freddie Lloyd yesterday. Like he was saying, good in the wet conditions. He's also pretty good in the dry conditions. He starts this one on pole position, third in the championship yesterday with a P5 and 2 race wins. He starts alongside Rocco Coronel, who had 2 second places and a 6th place. He goes from that outside row on row number 1, just behind Harry Bartle and Thomas Kinsey, yesterday's pole position driver. He had not the best day of racing, a 5th, a 2nd and a 9th. He starts also on that outside row on row number 2 alongside Harry Bartle, currently 6th in the championship. Felipe Carras and Joey Brown, they go from row number 3. Felipe Carras, who qualified in P24 yesterday, has fought his way all the way up into P5, so an absolutely brilliant start for him into this super heat. Eva Dorrenson and Cathal Clark also starting on that 4th row. Cathal Clark, of course, 2nd in the championship. He's got some work ahead of him as he starts this one in P8. He's got Jensen Graham and Joseph Smith just behind, rounding out the top 10. Jorn Helder and Wouter Bergenu go from row 6 with Isaac Phelps, who's 8th in the championship. Starts alongside Senna Meunier on row 7. Toby Gale and Maxime Blanchimand, they go from row 8 from Clovis Nogueira and Matteo Duvan. They round out the top 9 from Anthony Donker and Liam Halle. Rounding out the top 20, Matt Corby and Daniel Dalacan, who's 10th in the championship, starts this one all the way back in P22. A lot of work ahead, but we've seen all the way throughout this one that the back of the grid is starting to come through, as I think they're going for the fresh, slick tyres for this one, to try and gain as much as time as they can. But of course, you've got to remember, these drivers probably used all of their wet tyres yesterday, so really everyone should have a fresh set of slicks, because it's going to rain later on. You're going to need wets later on.
Yes, indeed. Talking to some of the drivers this morning, some of them told us that despite the difficult conditions, everybody tried to get the same set of wet tires last as long as possible, even though it was wretched a little bit when the races was going on as well. As we do have one very nice looking helicopter flying by the karting Define of Mariembourg as the drivers are getting themselves ready. We saw that this morning and we're wondering, oh, nice to have an helicopter with us. Yeah. And there you saw him as well.
If we were in the UK, I would say that was Jolyon Palmer leaving the circuit after collecting his check. But anyway, back to the racing. Super Heat 2 for Junior X30 is about to get underway. Freddie Lloyd starting on that inside row. Rocco Coronel on the outside. Who is going to start this one? Well, the inside line has worked into the tram lines. They're not going this time. It is a false start. They teased us to the line that time around.
That's the first extra lap that we have today. We had a couple of them yesterday during there was a slippery qualifying races. But Freddie Lloyd, Rocco Coronel on this start on the front row of the starting grid, followed by Harry Bartle. Thomas Kinsey was the fastest in Friday's qualifying. As it stands, Alexis Constant is leading the way. But as we talked previously, Freddie Lloyd, your leader in this race, your pole sitter, is on equal points by the look of it. If nothing moves, Alexis Constant himself, if Freddie Lloyd will win this race, will be on 5 points each. But as Freddie Lloyd was fastest in Friday's qualifying, he will get to start from pole position for the final. This is still in theory. As for now, we're going to have to wait the next 11 laps to see if Freddie Lloyd from Fusion Motorsport will be able to emulate his teammate GC Phillips in the mini class. Rocco Coronel with the recognizable crash helmet and the local colors of the Netherlands, the orange lion as well, like his very famous father. So then Mr. Tom Coronel, that needs no introduction in the world of motorsport, watching along live from Mariembourg to see what his son will be able to do by the end of the day.
Yes, indeed. He starts this one then on the outside row yesterday. 2 second places and a 6th. Let's see what they can do as they make their way round the final corner back into the tram lines. Looks like everyone's got themselves sorted out. Everyone has left the pit lane, which is good to see. Into the tram lines we go. And it is lights out and off in towards turn 1. They do go, and it's a great start from Lloyd, who holds onto that inside line. Bartle also holding onto that inside line, swoops into second place then as they go through in bumping and barging as drivers get nerfed into turn number 2. But everyone getting through, that's just the concertina effect kicking in as Bartle now goes to the race lead, dives down the inside of turn number 2, gets it done, and now he's going to have pressure from Thomas Kinsey, who goes there into 3rd place, who's now got in front of, I think, Cathal Clark. Is it Cathal Clark? There it is. It is indeed Cathal Clark from the 8th place spot has gone into that one, and that's heavy damage for the 1, 2, 3 Toby Gale, who's off the circuit and looks to be in a little bit of discomfort.
Oh my God, not only did he lose his front fairing by the look of it, but also his cone is gone in the wrong direction, and maybe the result of a heavy contact because he's still in his kart. But the medical staff of the karting Define was quick to react as always, and already with the young driver on the sideline with the marshals as well, making sure that everything is going according to plan in terms of caretaking. Back into the racing, and watch out for the move on the inside. He just got himself into the inside, Freddie Lloyd. What a move that was, but watch out for the reaction from Cathal Clark for the back as well, who takes P3 from the hands of Thomas Kinsey. Thomas Kinsey up a place in P2. Cathal Clark goes with him as well, and Harry Battle goes from P2 to P4.
No overtaking in this section. Of course, the yellow flags are out as up and out of the kart goes Toby Gale, which is good to see. He's walking on his own 2 feet. He now makes his way back to, I'm sure, some parts of the circuit to make sure he's all good. Yellow flag has actually come out, so a full course yellow has now come out on the circuit. So the race essentially has been neutralized. This is essentially a full course yellow condition, so everyone slows down, no overtaking around the entire circuit until the race director has deemed that the track is safe to go green racing again. So let's have a recap then. At the end of the first couple of laps, Freddie Lloyd leads the way after getting past Bartle. Kinsey has moved up into 2nd place from Cathal Clark. Bartle now sees himself in P4. Felipe Carras there, still in P5 from Joe Brown. Jensen Graham there in P7 from Rocco Coronel, who didn't have the best start. Unfortunately, has dropped down to P8. Jan Helder and Smith there in P10, so Joseph Smith rounding out the top 10. Bigger movers in the background as well. Nogueira up 5 places. Dalacan up 6 places, as well as Matt Corby up 3 places. So chopping and changing as yellow flags are still out. I suspect if we are going to go green, it could be this time.
The time for the medical carrying team on the side of your picture under the podium to be taking care of the driver that will also be Gale. Here's a replay of the start, and lashing himself into the inside from pole, the 51 of Freddie Lloyd, who did the job so far, as all drivers made their way into the first sections of the track. Here's your move back to the lead after he lost it to Harry Bartle. The door was open, and unfortunately Bartle was the biggest victim, as both Thomas Kinsey as well as Cathal Clark made their way through. As we see some of the replays as well, at number 14 making his way past. This is John Elder on Rocco Coronel. We've lost Rocco Coronel in the top 3, all the way down to P8 for the Dutch driver from Victory Lane. Not the best of start, unfortunately, unlike Cathal Clark, who climbed 5 places up to P3. We're still under yellow conditions, as it all comes down to the decision of Martin being the race director. We go for 1 extra lap. In the meantime, you can see the drivers trying to keep the tires up to temperatures, because the slower you go, and the more this temperature will decrease, and the colder those tires will get. Not quite easy to keep them in the right window of functioning in those conditions. But safety first when it comes to drivers being involved in an incident. Pretty low, Thomas Kinsey, Cathal Clark. What's interesting is that all the drivers have seen the gaps smelling like snow in the sun, and we're going to have pretty much all the drivers glued together for the restart coming our way very, very soon. So it's going to give us a second start. Very exciting way to the turn number 1. Watch out for the inside line. We haven't seen that many attempts around the long way between the drivers and the outside and the grass. Not a lot of runoff area on the karting Define, as the drivers have to keep that in mind if they want to go too smart on the overtaking maneuvers, because otherwise you could get yourself into trouble.
Good indeed. So green flags are in hand for the marshals that we can see. The drivers gear themselves up. It will be a single file start of the red ride once again, and we go green racing once more as Lloyd goes defensive instantly from Thomas Kinsey, who tries to look down the inside immediately at turn number 1 but can't get it done. Tries again at turn number 2 now, but Lloyd blocks that inside line, and this is crucial for Lloyd. Remember, he's got that 5 race point. He beat qualifying from your driver who came second in the last race of Alexis Constance. Now he needs to defend this one furiously. Kinsey again dives down the inside. inside, unable to get it done. That breaks away the gap now between it. Now Kinsey's under pressure from Clark and Bartle have come in behind. There's Joey Brown, who's latched onto the back of this one as well, as Clark now dives to the inside of Kinsey. No, can't quite do it, stays behind. So again, the restart now, everyone gets that prime opportunity to try and get that cheeky move that they wanted to get further back. Investigation flag going out to Maxime Blanchimont for the 1-1-0. Not sure what that's for, as it is all starting to heat up within the top 5.
And one who's taking advantage of that situation is Freddie Lloyd himself. He's pulling away just a tiny bit from the rest of the field. Let's have a look at the gap as they come across. Once again, Freddie Lloyd, there's the move. Carl Clark ran the inside of Thomas Kinsey. The door was way too open by the French driver, and Carl Clark saw the opportunity grooming, went for the move and take P2. Now it's going to have to be the one leading the wagon as it keeps on going behind. Watch out for Harry Bartle, takes the pole, the place, shall I say, and Brown was coming close as well to get himself into that position on the inside, but the door was shut at the last moment by Thomas Kinsey. So he's going to have to go harder than that, and there he goes this time around. Jamie Brown on the inside of Thomas Kinsey into the hairpin. Kinsey dropping a couple of positions. He was battling in the front, potentially for the victory, and now finds himself all the way down to P5 with Rocco Coronel putting the pressure on him. Jenson Graham as well in the mix. We're here with the number 23, a black flag for Maxime Blanchimont. So he was being investigated. I do wonder why. We don't have that answer yet. But the black flag, this is the first time that we see such a decision this weekend, as Thomas Kinsey makes his move back onto Brown into turn number 1. This is for position number 4, back into the hands of the French driver, Thomas Kinsey. Jenson Graham is further back as well from Fusion Motorsport. Rocco Coronel trying to get in line as well to stay within distance from his rivals. Didn't have the best of start, as we said. Rocco Coronel, you can see him now, the 47, with that orange crash helmet. But black flag in the meantime for Blanchimont from Victory Lane. Does it have to do with the starting procedures or maybe some wrongdoing onto the track? We will have the answer post-race.
Just saw a quick look there at P9. Jon Helder trying to get past Carras for P8. Doesn't look like he managed to get that one done. Back here, though, at the back of the battle for the lead, as like you were saying, yeah, Rocco Coronel didn't have a great getaway at the start, like you said. Now on the recovery, really, in this one. And, you know, it can be done, but you've got to be careful. You don't want to use the tyres too much. The question mark over the rain that we should be starting at around 12 o'clock local time, which, in theory, is in about in half an hour's time. I'm looking out the side, and I don't see any rain clouds in the sky. But, you know, like you said, anything could come over the hill at any point here at Marienburg. So now it's all chopped and changed at the front here, though, because actually Cathal Clark's in the lead. I'm not sure where that happened. Freddie Lloyd's now down into P2 as Bartle now moves up into P3 now at the expense of Thomas Kinsey. So Clark and Lloyd, this is not what Freddie Lloyd wants. Remember, Freddie Lloyd needs to win this race if he wants to start on pole position. If he stays there, he's only got the 7 points to his name against Alexis Constant's 5 points. So Lloyd here will be thinking, all right, I've really got to try and catch up here. But look, is losing touch with Cathal Clark. Cathal Clark has opened up a near second gap now between himself and second place. And you can see there, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, all in one big group. Coronel back up into P6 now at the expense of Jenson Graham. As down the inside goes Kinsey on Bartle, and Joey Brown goes to go through as well. No, he can't quite do it. Stays behind now. Coronel's going to go for the move now. Back up into P5. He just clouts the inside of the front nose cone there of Joey Brown. So Brown now down another position after trying to go for a move. There is Maxime Blanchimont, who did receive that black flag and, well, in the pit lane and devastated, or in parc fermé, I should say, and devastated.
And I was just told that Maxime Blanchimont was involved into the incident that led to the yellow flag proceedings. And we didn't get to see that, but Toby Gale and Maxime Blanchimont went together. And as a result, Toby Gale was out of this race, and Maxime Blanchimont received the black flag, which is a very severe decision and penalty. But this is the decision of the officials on the sideline with cameras and both eyes on everything that's happening onto the track. And we just have to rely on the decision-making process. Maxime Blanchimont, you could see him, you could feel the despair with the French driver who was out of this race. Black flag for that involvement in the incident earlier.
Yes, indeed. Eyes back on this one there as a change as Coronel tried to dive down the inside of Thomas Kinsey, but Kinsey immediately back into the position. Drops back now into third place and is under pressure. Coronel really on the recovery drive here. He's gone up several positions here. as Joe Brown dives down the inside of Bartel. Bartel now down 2 places there as Jensen Graham goes through. Isaac Phelps is in P8, but he's currently 2 further seconds down the road. He's actually in a 3-place battle with Jon Helder and Clovis Nogueira, who are also up around 7 positions from their original starting spots. So good one there as Bartel back down the inside of his fellow countryman, Jensen Graham. All the meanwhile, though, Cathal Clark is driving away, that gap increasing to over a second now. As we go on to the final lap, Lloyd not able to respond here, and that will, of course, mean that Lloyd will start on the outside of the front row for the final later on.
Which is not the worst position you can have on the starting grid, that's for sure, even though the inside line and position number 3 that could go the way of Thibaut Ramakers as it stands is an interesting one, taking the toe of the pole sitter on the inside of turn number 1. Rocco Cornell trying to harass Thomas Kinsey, and there he goes around the inside, the Dutchman. Thomas Kinsey has no way to go but to back off, and he still have maybe a couple of corners to try to fight back. Into the last corner, there goes Cathal Clark. What a demonstration from the young British driver who has been untouchable. That's in this superheat, something we've been used to see from the victory lane driver, who went through some trouble into the qualifying races, but he was able to make up for that ground that he lost. And after a 19, a second and a 9th place in yesterday's races, he made it up to the first 7 places gain. Victory for Cathal Clark, who, unfortunately, for Freddie Lloyd, he takes away the possibility for Freddie Lloyd to get away from pole position into the final this afternoon. Freddie Lloyd dropping to 2nd behind Alexis Constant in the junior class, who is our pole sitter for the final this afternoon.
Yes, indeed. So after 11 laps of racing, Victory Lane Karting's Cathal Clark will take the win in the Junior X30 Super Heat 2. That will mean that Cathal Clark will not start in the top 8 in the points classifications. He's a little further down in the points. Like you say, 2nd in the championship, but didn't have the best day yesterday. Started this one in 8th place. So to come through from 8th to take the win, it's a very good result. They make their way back into Parc Fermé. Freddie Lloyd then will finish in 2nd place from Rocco Coronel. Thomas Kinsey finishing in P4 from Joey Brown and Harry Bartel. Jensen Graham finishing in 7th place from Isaac Phelps. Jon Helder finishing in 9th, and Clovis Nogueira rounding out the top 10 after gaining 7 positions. Spain's Pantano Racing Team's Dan Dalakian will take 11th place after starting this one right at the back of the grid. 10th in the championship, he gains 11 places over that race from Joseph Smith and Felipe Carras. Walter Bergenu and Matt Corby round out the top 15 on track, some 10 seconds further down the road. Then we go down to 16th place, Arthur Dodonka, who gained 3 places during that one, so a good race nonetheless from Eva Dorenson, who unfortunately did drop down 10 places in that one. Had a race win yesterday in the wet conditions, but I think did lose that one at the end with a nose cone penalty. Finishing P17, Matteo Doganu rounding out the top 18.